Welcome to the Beautiful Struggle. Black Advancement is a nonprofit organization that seeks to create unity within the Black community through action and discussion. We'll go ahead and introduce ourselves.
I am Alexis Van.
I am Shanice Goodman, and we're going to be discussing why the education gap persists. So last time there was a discussion on why it existed. Now we're going to go to why it persists. And then the last discussion is going to be a solutions discussion. So given that this is our topic, so we know we have an education gap. So why do you think it persists, Alexis?
Why does the education gap persist? And I think it's a mixed bag of tricks when it comes to that, essentially. A lot of times we want to point to maybe one or two things in regards to, socioeconomic status or um, even classism, which all of them, if you kind of look at the root of that, a lot of it goes back to racism. But I think a lot of that really, if we're looking at the major components of an education gap. We have, like a knowledge gap, you have a motivation gap, you have a skills gap, communication gap, as well as an environmental gap, right? Those are like the five major components when you're looking at, an education gap, right? And a gap essentially is the difference between where somebody should be versus where they currently are. And for an education gap, if we're looking at just, for example, like a knowledge gap, and basically what we're saying there is that students weren't exposed to the correct information, you know, and and that, or if we're looking at skills gap, students weren't exposed to the correct skills. And what kind of strikes me, if we're looking at the core components of an educational gap, is who decides what is correct? Who decides what is the correct knowledge? Who decides what is the correct skill set? Um, you know, if you're just looking at today, look at the news at any point in time right now, we're banning books, we're banning certain types of education, we're banning certain types of information. And this is a huge reason why our education gap exists, and why it keeps persisting throughout, because we're banning the information that is needed to close gaps. And in addition to that, we, Black, Brown, those that typically fall below where we say we should be, those that are impoverished, we aren't at the table when it comes to deciding what is that benchmark for where that um, where we actually, like, what's the correct information, what's the correct skill set, what's the correct knowledge that we're supposed to be exposed to. So I think that is why the education gap persists.
And you made a lot of good points. I've done a little bit of research, and I'm also being a teacher myself. I do continue to see the students of color that continue to at least show up on the SIP plans, which is student improvement, school improvement plans. They want to focus on African American students, make their test scores increase by 50%. And I often question, and a lot of times it's the Black students and the farm students, or students that are on a low socioeconomic status, that they're always trying to catch up. And this has been consistent with all the years I've been a teacher. It's always been the Black students. They want to catch them up. Something that I looked up is why it persists. The first thing I came across was teacher expectation. And a lot of teachers don't look like the student, at least in our county, and just thrift across the nation. Like, I think, believe 80% of teachers are white. And then most, in some school systems, that's not the case. So we have limited belief, have limited beliefs about the students, and sometimes they may come with implicit bias. And their implicit bias may affect their ability to see past a student for what they are, and then they throw on these low expectations. And then teacher expectation is a direct reflection of student achievement. And then so it's like comes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if the teacher doesn't have these high expectations for me, therefore I'm not going to succeed in your class, because I'm already at the door. I'm already something that you're going to disregard, as I don't think you have the ability to learn like these students. And you often see that a lot with teachers' attitudes and the way that they go about teaching certain groups of students. And they kind of don't push them for the advanced track. They don't push them for this. They just have these low expectations for them, and then they don't expect them to exceed past those expectations. So therefore, they don't. Another thing is experience too. If you think about teacher experience, and if you think about schools that have marginalized populations, you have a higher teacher turnover rate. So I just researched, teachers learn best from teachers that have 5 years of experience or more. If you get a new teacher in a marginalized school district with low socioeconomic status, the teacher turnover rate is like every 3 years. The most they stay is 3 years. And then anybody that tells you that their first year of teaching was not the most challenging thing in their life, they're lying to you, because that is one of the toughest things to do. I don't care how good of a teacher you are, that first year is tough because you're learning. College prepared you, but it doesn't prepare you to enough to be in the classroom. So, and then if you have the low expectations, you have an experience every single year. Of course, from the teaching aspect, you're not getting a quality education that you deserve to succeed and to eliminate these gaps. And then another thing too, if you think about the statistics that throw at you about 80% of the teachers being white in this country, there's lack of professional required. I'm going to say not lack. I would say lack of required professional development on culturally responsive teaching. And if sometimes you may not be able to reach a student that does not look like you because you're not teaching him or her how to learn in their learning style. So just the fact that it's not required by most districts. It's just kind of like, well, you have the option to take a class. And most teachers, oh, if I can earn 3 credits, I may not take a culturally responsive teaching class. And then like you said, there's a lot of systemic stuff that's been going on in the year. I know people will say, well, there's bias in tests, but there are kids that can pass those tests. It all regards to how the information is being delivered, what attitude the teacher is coming with. So I'm not going to blame teachers, because I know there's a whole bunch of social economic status. There's a whole bunch of other a whole bunch of other reasons why there is an educational gap. However, once they come to us, our job to kind of, regardless of what you get, it's our job to kind of make sure that they learn and succeed. And since this has been going on for years, my hope is that and like I know you said that people are trying to ban and stop this and that. I think we just need a whole system-wide wake-up call. Hey, what we've been doing isn't working for Black children and brown children.
I'm with you. I feel like it kind of feeds into, one of those 4 competencies, right, of the motivational gap, right? And if you have teachers that are not getting that development that they need, not saying that teachers, not that all teachers, you have great teachers out there, I'm sure. But what it also causes, or what it compounds, is that inability to be able to meet a student where they are, or to understand where a student is coming from. So there's an inability to be able to speak in the same language as the student.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a lot easier to coach somebody up than it is to it's a lot easier to coach them up when they're young versus, when they become an adult, and then you're trying to coach them up to become the person that you want them to be.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
no, I know what you're saying.
It's a lot. It's a lot to try to overcome. It's a lot to because it's just basically we need a whole system uproot. In order for education to truly be, like, public education is supposed to be free for all. It's supposed to be equal, but it's never equal. And it's always so many inequalities and so many inequities. And even mentioning the word equity upsets people, and then we have people going to board meetings saying, oh, well, I don't want my child taught this way because I think it's going to make them feel this way. And so like you said, it's from the banning of textbooks to any type of mention of change, it automatically shot down. It's automatically a group of people saying, hey, we don't want our kids to be instructed a different way, even though the system is broken and it's only working for a few. We rather keep those few in power while other people are left to, just be not empowered and not looked after as other groups of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let me see. So do you have a solution on this? Do you think there is a solution for this educational gap persistence?
I think so. There's never one solution to this stuff, right?
Mhm.
Because it's been compounded over years. And we definitely have to have a multifaceted approach no matter what we do. But I think one of the things we can do is really look at that home to school pipeline.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it is something simple. We talk about it all the time, but as simple as, PTA meetings, as simple
Right.
as, making sure that we connect with the parents, making sure that we're ensuring that the kids have breakfast, lunch, dinner,
Mhm.
and so that kids can't learn if they're hungry.
Mhm.
You know, just making sure that we connect with someone, even if it's not a parent, some type of guardian, somebody that cares
Mhm.
about these kids that go to school, just to make sure that the same rigor that they're getting at school, they're also getting at home.
Mhm.
The care that they're getting at school, they're also
Mhm.
getting at home, and vice versa.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you on that. We definitely need to have that homeschool partnership because it's definitely needed in order for a child to succeed. Um, I would also say, like I said, I think we need to probably do just like a system uproot, take out what's not working. The thing about education too, um, through being a teacher, we know that there's educational trends. So one year you may be teaching this, we're like, no, this is not working. Then next year you're teaching something totally different. And they're always trying to find a way to fix the problem. And I don't really think they're looking at the causes of the root of the problem. Like if you go to a doctor, they're just not going to say, well, all right, I'm going to give you X, Y, and Z because you have this disease, but you need to go fix the root. What caused you to have X, Y, and Z? If you have high blood pressure, you also need to get out and exercise to remediate this problem. If you have whatever, you need to do this because it's only going to get worse. And then I can prescribe medicine on top of it. I think I think that we're not examining the costs. We're not doing enough. I know we talk about race and racism and stuff like that in schools, but we aren't really getting to the root of the problem to fix the problem. It's just not racism, because even though racism does exist and it exists everywhere systematically or systemically, there's also another cause of this. Why for those that may be in an environment where they feel like it's less racist, like if you're in an all Black school system, who's being racist against you? You know what I'm saying? Like, or what teachers have an implicit bias against you? What teacher did this and not against you? If you have a Black teacher, yet it still shows that those students still are struggling. They're still not passing the test. They're still not doing this. And I like what you said too, when you said when we decide like what you said, I think it was like something along the lines of who decides what is going to be the measure of success.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we need to look at some ways to way we measure success. Now all kids are great at reading and writing. Now all kids are great at solving math calculation. Is there another way we can assess your knowledge to know that you are just as smart? Because not everyone is the same. And I think that we in education, we kind of tend to go off of, yes, in the classroom, we may be differentiating this, we may be doing this, and maybe this. But when it comes to the test, we all have to pass the same standards. Even though X, Y, and Z is getting this instruction in the classroom, it's not matching up to what's on that test. And yet I'm expecting them to pass that test. And that's our one size fits all. And I don't think that is effective an effective way to measure. Just like you said, it's not an effective way to measure how smart someone is. So just, I think, for just to sum up, figure out the cause of this, and then work to fix the problem, and then also think about a different way to measure it. You know, if we're measuring standardized tests, we've been doing standardized tests for I don't know how long, you know, and we keep seeing the same thing, and is nothing's changing, then it must be, you know, it can't be the people, it has to be the test, you know? And then why are we doing this one size fits all when our system and our kids aren't one size fits all?
So, and I know not to get off topic here, but just to, because you are a teacher, I'm not, you being an educator, do you feel heard when your opinion is provided on how we can resolve some of these? As you're in the classroom, as you're in the school system, do you feel heard in that way?
I I do a lot of advocacy. So I try to get my voice out there as much as I can. We're in November, what, 10th, or no, November Wednesday, it was November 7th. 10th, no, November 9th. Okay, sorry, November 9th. We're supposed to be going up against the board. They wanted to have an anti-racism basically policy adapted. And then we're gonna go, like, I'm a member of my union. I'm going up on behalf of FCTA to make sure that at least they say, hey, we're teachers do support this anti-racism policy, this bullying, harassment, intimidation policy. We want it to be passed. But there's also another voice that's loud within our community, you know. So we have to, like, it's a lot of showing up, and then getting other teachers that are that passionate, because it's not just, you know, me. I can't just say, hey, you know, I'm Shanice and I'm one teacher, but it's trying to rally a bunch of teachers behind you. So I feel like I do that. Like, I have a good solid 10 to 12 people that I can call on and be like, hey, let's, you know, we need to go to this meeting. We need to make sure this, and then, and, you know, and not to knock all white educators, because I work with the majority of white educators. There are some that are really passionate about this. They see these systems too, and they say they're not working. I think there's going to be more of us though. And I feel like there's not. So, and if there's not more of us, and then people are still going off with the status quo, and people not want to hurt other people's feelings. You know, I think it kind of all drives back to money too. I don't know if no one mentioned, like, who's in power, who funds the systems and stuff like that. And if they continue to feel like those kids are going to get, you know, you get Asian kids, white kids, whoever are running the country, then they're going to continue to let these power structures be, because that's what they want. And so they're going to go where the money goes to. So you're fighting up, and when you are you're all speaking out, you're fighting off against the power of money. Yeah.
Guess I should take myself off mute if I'm gonna say something. But no, it's an uphill battle, so I completely understand what you're saying. And those kids that typically are the ones that I mean, you know, you want everybody to achieve. But those that are in the majority that are achieving are typically the ones that are at the table making the decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all need to be at that table.
That's for
We
sure.
all, we definitely need to be at the table. And then, like, yeah, and it starts from, you know, board, you know, let the board, curriculum writing specialist, you know, we need to be, you know, in central office, we need to be on the board, we need to be in the community as parents, we need to be in the community as teachers. I think we all is going to take more than one voice.
Absolutely.
To solve this problem. And I think as a collective, we all need to come together and say, hey, this is an issue and we need to fix it. And we need to get to the root cause of it, and then try to work from there, and then just fix it.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. So do you have anything else? Any last thing that you want to say?
No, ma'am.
All right. So that's all for today. Today's beautiful struggle. Thank you for watching. You can see more of this at the Black Advancement YouTube channel. or on their website at www.blackadvancement.com. And until next time, peace in advance. Sorry it was so short, just the two of us. All right, have a good day.
Take care.